Hello and welcome back to the channel for another Runewars battle report. Another friendly game from the weekend, and this time I am playing against Martin and his Latari, so another mirror match. My list is the same as in the previous game, but quickly, a 6 block of archers with Maegan, Fire Rune and Close Quarters targeting, with a support scion, Aliana with Malcolm's Bequest and Ambush Predator, small unit of Darnati Warriors with a Wind Rune, a Scion with Raven Tabards, a column of Leonx Riders, and a 2x1 of archers with Tempered Steel. Martin's list has something that I was quite keen to see in action. He's got a 3x2 of Darnati Warriors, which contains his Maegan Cinderwin, Tempered Steel and a Warsong Herald, so that's his big damage output block here. A 2x2 of Leonx Riders with Raven Tabards, so he's got slightly less threat than mine, but he's got that consistency of rerolls and a bit more durability. 3x2 of archers, so a big unit of archers with Tempered Steel and a support scion. His Aliana with the more classic Pack Leader Spear and Ambush Predator build. And finally a Raven Tabard scion to run interference, a bit like mine. Continuing with these new deployments and scenarios, we're playing Treacherous Ground with a column ambush. Treacherous Ground is, and you'll see on the deployment, we both have to put down 2 objective tokens and they generate this area of hazardous ground that reduces speed of moves and shifts by 1 down to a minimum of 1. As you can see here, this is a very uneven deployment. Now I won the bid in terms of points, so I chose to be player 1 and deploy here in this blue zone here. I wanted the width because I didn't fancy being boxed in here. I'd rather be able to have control of the flanks here in the early turns. So here's our deployments. This is what I mean. So we've each put down these 2 markers, and if a unit starts their activation within range 1 of these 2 markers, then their speed is reduced. I've got my Leonx here, ready to get bogged down here. Darnati Warriors, Scion, Archers, Aliana and Archers. And he's got his big block of Archers and his Maegan block of Darnati. His Scion behind that, his Aliana to come back and smash into me in the later turns, and his Leonx here as support. So here we go. Turn 1, I've got some red runes in that are green, in case anything gets to fire, but I doubt it at this stage, and a couple of blue, which means we've both got some fairly well armoured trees. So here we go. I've moved my block up here, ready to intercept his units coming round, of course forgetting that this is going to slow me down. Fast forward a little bit because it was just a bit of jostling for position in this turn. My signs moved around here. The archers have rallied and shifted up. I like the early rally on them, so it lets me use a Tempered Steel later. My Aliana's moved up. My plan was to get her into here at some point. He's just moved his units forward. His Aliana's shifting around to get past his big block. And he tried to get his Leonx around the side of his Darnati, but didn't quite make it, so they got bumped here. And you can see I've moved up my big block of archers as well, and the Darnati have gone to the backboard, essentially because I didn't quite know what they were going to be able to do here, so I thought it was better to keep them back, not give away the points cheaply early, so I could react with the Wind Rune to where they needed to be. So into turn 2, 2 reds, 2 greens and a blue. It's not too bad. So early on, this guy shifts up here to try and intercept any of his. He's moved his Scion up as well, and I've moved my Aliana in here. He's shifting and moving his troops up, and then he's going to bring his Leonx round. Mine have just shuffled a little bit because basically I tried to turn them into the fight, but because they're so long they clip the side of the board and I had to stop. I've also made it so that, because he has initiative this turn, so I've made it so that these guys, I've dialed in a late move and no shooting for this turn. So here we go. So once all is said and done, he's moved up with his Aliana. I've got my archers here. I've moved myself into range because I know I'm shooting before him next turn. Everyone's shifted around a bit. these guys are probably going to take these Leonks to the face at some point for two good reasons. One, I'm slowed down by this terrain because I'm an idiot, and two, he's got the Raven Tabards. So I know that in this fight only one thing is going to happen, and that's his lions rolling up this column. Into turn 3. 2 reds, 2 greens, and a blue. Okay. Well, 4 reds technically. Aliana just rallies up and armours up. Nothing really happens until initiative 5, where my archers shoot, and with 6 damage plus the lethal 2 from Maegan, that's 8 damage. So I take off the tree at the back, who's not particularly well armoured this turn, and a couple of archers, and then another 4, 5, 6 archers die to the fire rune, because that one hit multiplied by the 4 runes is 4 plus lethal 2 from Maegan. And just to add insult to injury after that, I get to shift backwards, back out of range due to the support scion. His scion tries to shoot and doesn't do much, and his guys shoot back and don't do much either. So here we fast forward a little bit, and there's been some movement. So what I've done here is he's moved his Dunarty up quite aggressively, and I kind of forget that they're going to be slowed down by this ground anyway, but we haven't quite managed the charge. Martin's quite happy to move these up, knowing that he gets to move before me and further than me anyway, so it's not really a problem. And I've moved the warriors up this time basically to be a second blocker. If he tries to turn into Maegan, I can deal with it. Basically, I'm trying to give myself options here to stop these 2 big units rolling up my flank and into my main damage dealer. Into turn 4, same runes again. I'm using my Malcolm's reflip. In we go. He charges in with his Aliana, which I knew was coming at some point, but there we go. And he takes off a fair amount between his mortals, etc, etc. He's taken off my scion and 3 archers. My Aliana decides it's time to get stuck into his troops, so she moves out and armours up. I've charged my scion in early. So these guys moved up and armoured. He figured he didn't have the move. I moved my Aliana out of this terrain early to stop him coming in and charging. Then I came in with the counter charge with the scion. I wanted the fight to happen on my terms rather than his. I wasn't quite sure where he was going. Looking back at it now, where he was going to have to do quite a bit of manoeuvring to get back round this piece of terrain, because he had too many trays to fit in it anyway, so this was maybe me giving my scion away a bit cheaply here. And he just drops one. It doesn't do much. I dialed in a fight with my Leonks, thinking he might have gone for the early charge. I'd measured it out, thinking, well, he can do the initiative 3 charge, because we were 1 away, and he can charge 2 at initiative 3 or initiative 2, because he's got the Raven Tabards, forgetting that he was slowed down because of his, and as my opponent Martin pointed out, he had to dial in a later charge because of this, so they just flailed around madly doing nothing. My archers use their close quarters targeting to just shoot back and absolutely obliterate Aliana, his Aliana, between hits, fire rune, etc. These archers open fire, do a little bit of panic on my tree, but open up on his Dunarty, whittling them down. Now the charge comes in and he kills off 3 of my Leonks, which is a shame. And I shift and windrune my warriors into here. In hindsight, not the best of plans. I don't know why I did this, but I think I wanted to split his focus between the 2 units and try and help myself again whittle these guys down, but in hindsight it was just a waste of a unit. And here's the state of the board at the end of the turn. My archers are slightly less depleted than his archers. I've got my Aliana here, who hasn't popped her ambush predator yet, so who's willing to go on a bit of a rampage behind his lines. I've got some support archers, and I have the big problem that is these two blocks that are going to get through my right flank really quite easily. Turn 6, I still managed 2 reds, but I don't have any greens, which is annoying as well. I do like that extra lethal that Maegan adds to a unit. So I go early with my Latari, Darnati warriors, because it's my initiative, and I take a few of his off. His Leonks fight and kill off the rest of mine, and they reform, ready to go crashing into this next turn. He had reformed his tree, knowing that he was probably going to get the charge from my Aliana, because looking at the state on my left hand side, I figured that my archers could definitely win in a straight up fight against his archers. So instead of using Aliana to go around these 12 little models here, which she could wipe out in one go, I decided to swing around and try and come back and get into the rear of his army. And unsurprisingly enough, she just absolutely nails that tree. A great roll. I don't think I could have done anything better than between a mortal wound that the ambush predator just takes the tree off. This tree dies to his warriors, which is a shame. A mighty, mighty shame. My archers shoot. Not a great roll, but I take off a tray and a bit of his archers, who shoot back and take off distinctly more of mine. So this war of attrition here is getting a bit dicey. These archers go and do a little bit of damage in here. Oh yeah, they've taken some wounds off his Maegan, so she's now taken 2 wounds because of these guys. I got the double hit, double accuracy. And off we go into turn 6. 2 blues, 2 greens, 2 reds. The 2 blues would be lovely, except neither of us have any trees left, so that's great. He goes with... Well, I do my warriors early, putting in the move. Now that's wasted, but I want them to armor up, which is why I wanted to try them out as a blocking unit to get that armor up. He goes, and that saves half the unit. I've still got 3 left, which is quite nice. He shoots, because he's got the initiative, and he pops a couple of wound onto my Aliana, which I wasn't a big fan of. My archers go and obliterate the rest of his unit. These archers go, only kill 1 or 2, not a great roll. I'm still trying to pick off his Maegan. I dialed in a turning charge with my Aliana, but she was just short, so she's picked up a panic. He's moved and reformed these guys right here to come round and up my flank. Turn 7. Here we go. No greens, 2 reds, 2 blues. I move my archers into this terrain. It's my best chance to avoid the charge from these guys. His warriors have gone and demolished mine. These have moved up and not done a lot. I'm having to reform these guys as well as I can to try and get charges on there. I was hesitant to throw her in this turn, so I've just reformed her. The reason being is that all I want to do, I know I'm probably not going to be able to wipe this unit out, but she's only got 1 wound left. And I know I can definitely charge this unit next turn. So I decided to just reform this turn and just go for a late charge, end of turn 8, to see what she can do. So turn 8, that was a very quick turn 7. At this point it's just shifting and rolling some dice. 1 green, 2 reds, those are the important ones for us. His Leonks go in, wipe out my archers, which was a shame. My archers go, claim a fair amount of casualties in his warriors. And then finally his warriors aren't able to do a whole lot. They're not really able to get away, and I dialed in the charge with Aliana, she goes in and wipes out all but 5 of them. So they still have 2 trays left. But she's got the impact too. So this is the panic check that I cause on them. Loss of faith was one of them, level 2. So I get to remove 1 tray, which basically brought the unit down to 1 tray. So I claimed almost full points for them. I'd killed off Maegan in there on an earlier attack. So that was very, very lucky on my behalf. So we add it all up, and it turns out that I squeaked it with 161 victory points to Martin's 125, which was a 7-4 win. I was quite happy with that. First time I've won the Latari mirror match, which was brilliant. And that Maegan Cinderwin unit just does so much damage. I'm a big, big fan. So we'll see how she goes in the next game. Cheers, and I'll see you next time.